we're still working on and stuff, I wouldn't say was the perfect decision. It was the opportunity we kind of thought, like, you'll always wonder if you didn't take it. So it's been a lot, and we're going in the right direction. It's a very tough time in the beef industry to sell direct to consumer beef at a high price. It was really easy during COVID, so it just felt like the next step, the transition of that evolution, that we'd built up enough of a reputation and was selling direct to consumer, and it was a need in this area to keep a butcher shop open.
Hey, I'm Shay Warner, and you are listening to the Casual Cattle Conversations podcast. Whether you are a seasoned rancher or just curious about the cattle world, this podcast dives into the stories, science, and strategies shaping the future of ranching. Let's get started and keep your herd ahead of the herd. Folks, today we are visiting with CJ and Calli Thorne. CJ and Calli ranch, have a feedlot, sell direct to consumer, and most recently became owners of a local beef harvest facility. So we talk through what drove their decision to keep adding a new business to their lives, the challenges that come from being a part of a local beef supply chain from birth to harvest, and how they delegate responsibilities, just to name a few things. Remember, if you are looking for a community of ranchers to push your own business and mindset forward, or lean on for support and share a few laughs with each month, check out the Rancher Mind program on my website. Rancher Minds allows you to connect with industry experts and peers on a regular basis without having to leave your ranch. You can join from the truck, the tractor, your office, or even on your way back from a kid's ball game. It's really flexible and a lot of fun. But with that, let's visit with CJ and Calli. All right. Well, good morning, Calli and CJ. Calli, it's fun to have you back on this show. And CJ, welcome to being a podcast guest.
Good morning, Shay.
Good morning.
So to start off, I'm really excited to talk about the journey you guys have been on and all that you are doing with all your different businesses. I would say operation, but you guys have a whole system going on for you guys. And the question I like to ask everyone at the beginning is, why do you choose the beef industry as your lifestyle, as your career?
I think I always feel like the easy answer is because it's what everybody did before us, right? Both of our families are in this industry, and my kids are actually the 5th generation on our operation. And it's funny because when I was growing up, I didn't think a whole lot about it. I planned to travel and go do a lot of different things once I graduated, but ended up back home right away. And I think the other thing that always crosses my mind too is, like, if we didn't do it, who would? You know, there's not a lot of people that are just don't grow up in the industry and then say, hey, this looks like fun. I think I want to do this, and put in the time and effort and money and finances and stuff. So it's kind of like I take it as a privilege to be able to be in this industry and continue with it, I guess.
What about you, CJ?
Yeah, I'd say the same. Kind of grew up on both sides of my family involved in cattle and stuff. In farming, my dad worked for a farm, and my uncles have a feedlot and stuff. So it's just always been around. We didn't grow up like farming ourselves personally, but was always around it, and it's just something I've always been interested. Went down the path as for diesel mechanics, but kind of was a good background on the farm and ranch to have. So just as we go along in Calli's family and just realize how much, 5th generation means, and it's important to us to carry it on for our kids.
Well, absolutely. So you guys have the ranch, the feedlot, you sell direct to consumer, and now you have Yellowstone River Beef, correct?
Yes.
Parts of it, yes.
How did you go from one to the other? Because you've really completed kind of that loop in just the last years when you added on the locker component, correct?
We ended up buying the beef processing plant in May of this year, so 2024. I would say a lot of it probably started actually during COVID. I'm kind of easy. It's easy to say that. Then we can remember the year, and there's kind of a timetable for us. But it was probably March of 2020, and we were obviously sitting at home like everybody else for a little bit, and CJ was the one who can see the writing on the wall a lot of times, and he said, do you see what's happening with packers and butchers and grocery stores? And it was like that perfect storm. And he said, I think we should start selling beef. And so we'd always sold maybe one or two a year, just kind of like a lot of families do. But I mean, we really up leveled it fast. I mean, we're talking 40, 80 head in a month or two. I think by the end of that year, we had processed over 200. And the thing was, we were processing a lot of those cattle up in Williston, which is about an hour from our ranch. And so they were USDA federally inspected, so we knew we had that going. They were getting us in, and so it was just a good combination. But we had processed over 200 head with them that first year, really in just a handful of months. And so we kind of kept that going the last 4 years. And I don't know, I think that's kind of where then this opportunity just fell into our lap, really.
I'd go back farther to when we first moved up here. Just the whole big picture seemed like it was just always filling a gap or a void. I think in 2009 or 8 when we moved up here in 8, but calf market wasn't real good and didn't really have another way to hold on to any calves, pen space, and it was like, we should build some pens. And so as a marketing tool, and so we built some pens in 2010 for 400 head. And then it turned into a couple neighbors wanting us to background calves. And so we built some more. And it was originally just a marketing tool to put 60 days on some calves and upgrade them to wean calves and market them and buy us some time to market calves. And then it just kind of grew into a customer base of custom feeding calves and mainly backgrounding. And you had giving us some flexibility for what to do with our calves every year. So then it just kind of moved on to selling some beef and then working with Yellowstone and then making some more slots and expanding to get us in. And I guess we were never looking to purchase the Yellowstone River Beef. They kind of came to us, liked Calli's presence on Facebook and thought it needed more of a local presence between the community and stuff. And then partnered with which are actually our neighbors, but Luke Taylor and Courtney Taylor. And so just kind of evolution. Everything's kind of an evolution, or you can kind of guide it and direct it how you want, but some of it you just don't see coming either.
Can I just add to that too? I think that is a big thing in this industry is we often think like, woe is me, this isn't going well, or this part's hard right now. But I think CJ and I work really hard at looking for those opportunities. I mean, going back to, we never had feedlot. We never had that sort of pen space a couple decades ago, and that's what we ended up building, was that because it gave us an opportunity. You know, it gives you options. And when it feels like your hands are tied in this industry, that's not fun. Like, well, this is when we always sell our calves. Well, if the markets aren't what you want, do you have the space? Do you have options to do what you want, to hold them for a little while, to feed them and stuff? And I think that's the thing that is really important in this industry, is to look for different opportunities and options that kind of you can create. You either come by them or you have to create them yourself.
Absolutely. So with Yellowstone River Beef, I mean, you mentioned that you weren't really looking, they approached you, but what about that decision made you say, or what about that business opportunity made you say yes? Because you very easily could have turned it down. You already have more than enough going on without it, from my understanding. So what really enticed you or made that yes feel like the right decision?
I'm curious to hear what CJ says, why he said yes. But I will, no, I'm kidding. But I almost remember the day. It was about a year ago, just over a year ago, when Trevor, one of the prior owners, called CJ and said, hey, we're looking at possibly selling. We're coming to you guys. We would love for you guys to be able to carry it on and stuff. And I remember you being so excited, CJ, and just the idea of being able to take it beginning to end and what opportunities would be there and stuff. So they definitely came to us. We weren't looking for this one.
We're still working on and stuff. I wouldn't, say it was the perfect decision. It was the opportunity. We kind of thought, like, you'll always wonder if you didn't take it. So it's been a lot. So, and we're going in the right direction. It's a very tough time in the beef industry to sell direct to consumer beef at a high price. It was really easy during COVID. So it just felt like the next step, the transition of that evolution, that we'd built up enough of a reputation and selling direct to consumer. And it was a need in this area to keep a butcher shop open. Now that doesn't mean it was a good business decision just because you need something, but for trying to create a brand in a in a place that people want to come to and know what's there. And
So are you doing custom slaughter and selling retail, or what does that side of the business look like as far as what you're providing to the community?
We've got some of all of that. So we are doing custom processing. So if local ranchers or whoever have cattle that they want to bring in, we're busy doing that. But then we also have a really nice retail shop that's connected, which is pretty fun because customers will come in and I don't think they realize what all goes on in our building. You know, customers swing into that front retail shop and I'm like, you can buy fresh, you know, never frozen beef, or you can buy some frozen beef out of another cooler. And I think sometimes I have to explain to them, like, yes, we processed cattle yesterday and they were cutting up beef and all of that. And they literally wheel it from the back to the front and put it in the display case, which you don't see that very often. You'd have to travel a long ways to find that. And that's just a perk. That's something that we definitely showcase, that beef coming off trucks is just fine, but we make it a big perk to let people know that ours is local. I think that's the very unique thing about us is those cattle are coming then either from our place, from our ranch, or other local feedlots in the area, from western North Dakota to eastern Montana. So just keeping it really local. We can explain to everybody who has all those questions of what are they fed, how are they cared for, what are you feeding them, and all of those things. So that's something I think that stands out.
So CJ, you mentioned that one of the challenges was it's maybe not the best time to be selling direct to consumer compared to when you started during COVID, where it was a little easier. What are some of the other challenges that you have experienced since becoming an owner of Yellowstone River Beef?
well, all of it's new to us. We're kind of cutting our teeth and having 8 to 11 employees, learning all the HR stuff, learning just implementing payroll, setting all those things up, making sure, just transitioning. A lot of it's been taking longer, moving the healthcare stuff over. All this stuff we're learning as entrepreneurs and business owners that was on a much smaller level here on the ranch. And we're doing it in the middle of, we bought it in May, and you're planting and calving and branding and spraying and haying and all that in between. So it's been a challenge for us, and even our partner, he does crop dusting, so he was pretty much living in his airplane all summer. And so that's been one, just the transition of getting the business going. And I mean, it was never stopped. It always cut meat, but transferring all that over. And then employees and learning how all they work, and some come, some go, and trying to create that culture and the right people to work for you. Everything has been a learning curve. I can't say I walked in and be like, oh yeah, I knew that. Tomorrow I know how to address that. But it's been good. It's been challenging. And the price of beef is, customers coming and they, instead of buying 10 pounds, they're only able to maybe buy 7 to 8 pounds that day. They all have a budget. Everybody has a kind of fixed income at some point. So when grocery stores are high, and then you have a customer that maybe hasn't bought beef for a year, and try to explain to them that we're at a 73-year low on cattle inventory, and the fat cattle were probably at 150 or something a year ago, and now they're pushing 195. I think the biggest thing that is the customer's dollar is it's hard for them to buy beef, even though they're buying quality beef, and so they're willing to spend the money, but so we want to make sure we provide a good quality product for what they're buying.
Well, and I think it's kind of like he said, during COVID, it was almost like this panic buying, right? Which was one thing. So people, we couldn't keep it. We were always, almost always pre-sold out. Every time we sent 10 head every other week at least or something, they were all spoken for. But that was kind of that panic, nervousness. And I think a lot of the problem now is just those prices. It's wild. We laugh about it because what else are you supposed to do? Whereas I always tell people on the ranch, things are great, right? We have record prices. Cattle are at an all-time high. We just sold calves yesterday, and you just kind of sit there and smile and shake your head at, they're almost double, wouldn't you say, from a year ago?
No, well, from 3 years ago.
Yeah, from a few years ago, what we would get when you would sell your weaned calves and stuff. But then people don't always comprehend when you have the other end of it, a butcher shop, just small family butcher shop. We've got about 8 employees right now. And man, it's tough. It's hard to make the numbers work, and that's just the reality. But I don't know, we always talk about it's like you got to keep stepping outside your comfort zone to try something new. And I realized it was about a year ago. I just had talked on risk versus opportunity, and you could see this as a huge risk that we took, or we're working on viewing it as a huge opportunity and trying to make it work. And I think that's the hard, almost, I don't want to say sad, but the reality of this business is we've said sometimes talking at night, like, if we can't make this work, like, who can? How can you? I mean, we've got some pretty, we like to think, smart, entrepreneurial minded, agricultural beef industry people on our team. And it's like, man, this is tough. But if we can't find a way to make this work, like, who's going to step in and feed people? So, but I think like CJ said, I mean, we don't have backgrounds in cutting meat and stuff. So even the other day I was there on the kill floor when they were killing on Wednesday. They did 15, 16 head, I think, and just working with our federal inspector, and she was trying to teach me things and show me what she does and what she looks for and different things. So it's, yeah, we learn something new every single day, and just working with the people, figuring out the HR stuff, the customers, I mean, there are so many things which we know, but when you take on a team, it makes a big difference as well, what you're trying to do and figure out and learn in the process.
Hey folks, have I told you about my all-time favorite seasoning? It's called Pluck. Whether I am grilling steaks, making spaghetti, or wanting to add more flavor to veggies, I reach for Pluck. Pluck is not just a regular seasoning mix. It contains beef organs for added flavor and nutrients. It's tasty and a fun way to add more meat to your meals. You can learn more at eatpluck.com and get a 15% discount by using the code SHAYWANNER. That code is spelled SHAYEWANNER, and I will include the link and the code in the show notes. So, have you started to view your ranch and what you do on the ranch differently now that you are on the processing side? Has there been a shift in your viewpoint?
No, it's not like we're just like, oh, we're going to finish everything. I think everything has a value on cattle side, and what's worth more and what's worth less. We will consistently keep some beef supplied, go in that direction. But if it doesn't pay to finish something, we're going to, change that a little bit. You can't just turn it on dime. But I guess I don't really think it's changed my mind any, but we're into it at 8-9 months. So, maybe a year from now, I'll look back and be like, oh yeah, we did change a bunch of stuff. I haven't for sure said, yeah, we're changing something. This is the new deal. We maybe 1 year will buy a bunch of calves and run some yearlings and then finish them, or just kind of always looking at the numbers and seeing what makes sense to where to take animals, how far to take them and stuff on weight. So,
what about you, Calli? Has your viewpoint changed about anything you do on the ranch or how you view the whole system?
Not overly, actually, I would say, but I think that's because we've always worked so hard on doing a good job at home, and then you can see those quality cattle show up. CJ does an incredible job feeding cattle. I mean, we fed our own, whether it's just backgrounding or finishing, but then we feed a lot of other people's cattle. So he knows what he's doing when he's feeding, and that shows up in the butcher shop, which is pretty cool. I mean, we take pride in having well-finished quality cattle, incredible beef to provide consumers, and once in a while we'll get some that come through, and it's when you see them hanging in the cooler, you can tell what we want, what our customers prefer, and then maybe what somebody, they don't really know quite how to finish, or they're doing it differently, which to each their own. But I think that's been a unique thing just to think about and to actually notice, see the difference, taste the difference, which we knew about, of course. But we've just always done a good job, I guess, caring for our cattle, whether it's when they're out grazing, or if it comes to figuring out vaccination programs or what needs to happen, what doesn't need to happen, and things like that, because the customers are asking. They come in and they ask those questions, and we definitely get the opportunity to teach a lot on that.
What have maybe been some, I mean, I know you were already selling direct to consumer, so you were already having some of those conversations, but were there any customer or consumer viewpoints, questions, concerns that were new for you or you maybe didn't think about before?
A lot of them are probably similar. A huge one out there, a lot of people ask, are they grass finished, or are they on grass? And it's like, well, people don't realize that a majority of cattle are raised on grass. It just depends on those last few months how they're finished and stuff. And so kind of having that conversation, I've got some great materials in the retail office where people can read about that, from environmental or grass versus grain, and just even vaccines, hormones, all of those different things. So sometimes that comes up, but it's probably not as often as you think either. I think there's almost a shift too in just health for people. I'm maybe not surprised, but the number of people that come in and talk about carnivore, that are just wanting, whether they're straight up eating meat or adding it to their diet because they know it's a healthy choice, that's pretty fun and exciting to see. People coming in, telling stories about what they've seen, eating more and more meat and their results, and I think that's pretty cool.
So with as much as you have going on, how did you determine how to delegate responsibilities? I mean, CJ, you already talked about like when you guys really started, it was not a good time, one of the busiest times on the ranch, and one of your other business partners has his own business where he was crop dusting and busy. So how have you handled that shift and change with adding another aspect to your business where you were learning on the go?
I don't know if we've quite got that nailed down perfectly yet, but my wife helps me a lot. Like, you have to have somebody else. I'm used to here, you on the ranch, you kind of the mechanic, you're the feed guy, you're everything, fix it, the paperwork, stuff like that. So on that deal, a lot of it I've taken on, and then slowly it's like, you have to. Calli's always coaching me. You have to delegate this. You can't do all this. And at the same time, we don't want to look back and be like, man, we should have done that ourselves because we didn't understand that it wasn't going in the right direction. So we're still totally hands-on. Somebody tries to be there every day between us and the Taylors. I've been going up there, 3 to 4 days a week. And it becomes a lot, but you don't want to look back and question if you did this right or you gave it all you had. And so we're still working on delegating and getting things transitioned and people put in place and stuff like that. But we got to keep working on that to make sure that we don't just a year from now be like, yeah, I'm still the guy dumping the garbage. But I'm not the guy garbage. But I will dump the garbage. And that's the other thing, is it was like, I would never ask somebody to do something I wouldn't do. So, and that's how I operate. So you're always like, oh, I'll just take care of that and catch up on this or that. So, but people in general always get by with what you let them do. So if you are pretty soon always dumping the garbage, then the day you're gone, maybe nobody dumps the garbage. That's just a scenario. But we have good help, good workers. But in general, people, they always take as much time as you allow, and they always get by with what you allow. So yeah, delegating and getting people directed is something I'm still working on. So yeah, ask me in a year.
I think a big thing too, if people are probably wondering, like, so how do things get done at home? And we're very fortunate. My parents live just 5 minutes from us, and I know we would not have even said yes to this opportunity if we didn't have family nearby that could help. Because, my dad is a lot of times doing feedlot chores for us for hours in the morning so that we can keep running the other businesses or be in Williston or whatever has to be happening. And so it definitely takes a team, whether that's at home, that we've got that going for us, or whether it's up in Williston. And I think, like CJ said, we look back, we're not even in a year yet that we've had it. Last 9 months or so, and it's, man, we've worked hard. And I joke, CJ knows this, Shay, you probably know this, I love a schedule. I was running, I was helping here on the ranch do whatever they need and stuff, but I would be running my other side business, right? Doing speaking, training, coaching, and I'd have my schedule, and I'd run the kids to sports and do all those things. And man, my year has never been so flipped. And thankfully, I've had a lot of that coaching and mindset training where it's like, I have become so good at pivoting and being flexible this year, because it's, hey, who's going to Williston today? I still get asked that a lot. Do you go up to Williston much? Do you go to the butcher shop? And I tell them, if I'm not on the road or I don't have something I have to be doing at home, I'm at the butcher shop as well. And so we're trying to kind of juggle that. Who has to be home doing something today? Who can run to the butcher shop? Because we do. CJ and I are the same in the fact that I can't look back a year or a few years from now and be like, man, we should have showed up more. We should have worked a little bit harder on that business. And I think hopefully that will ebb and flow and we'll get in our places and stuff. But right now there's always seasons of you have to show up and you have to put in the time and effort to try and make a good go of it. But yeah, I've always liked my schedule, and here's the plan for today. And it's sometimes you're just putting out fires. It feels like all day long and adjusting and pivoting and who's going to get back to Watford in time to pick up the kids from sports and who's going to this or that. But it's been fun. It's been a learning curve.
So what's been your biggest takeaway from this whole experience?
When you start something, you have a great plan and how it's going to, but usually it's going to take more than you expected. So they can't remember what we were talking about the other night. Energy gap, I think is what it's called. You know, like it's going to take this much, and where people survive it or pull ahead, and they're the ones that made it, they filled that energy gap, whether more than they expected, you know. So it's taken more than we thought. We kind of had this butcher shop that was like, oh, it's running. These guys don't even live here, but we're changing it, and we're trying to put a local presence. So we're always up there talking to customers and stuff. So that's taking more than we expected to run it. You know, and originally it was like, yeah, this place already runs on its own. It'll be easy. And looking at it, walking in there, like, we want this to be more than what it's running right now.
I think that was a big piece of it too that we saw, because a little backstory, the prior owners lived in Oregon. So they weren't here even running the shop. They had a manager and they had their employees and they ran it. I mean, they'd come maybe once or twice a year for just a little bit. And so to us, it looked simpler, right? And I think we never imagined the actual time and energy that we'd have to put in and just how we'd have to pivot with where prices are right now. And they did a lot of global exports. That was their focus. And so it was very clear when we stepped on then that nobody knew we existed, that there was this butcher shop that's been around for decades actually in Williston, and then obviously really flipping it to pushing the, hey, we're local ranchers, we're local agriculturalists, we've been here for generations, we're providing local cattle, and we're doing it all in-house, and we want you to eat some of the best beef that's out there. And so just having those conversations, putting that time and effort out there and really pushing, I guess what we wanted was to be more of a local market to be able to grow that and stuff. But we've all probably heard this quote and stuff, but I think one of those challenges, just overarching bird's eye view challenges, is new level, new devil. I mean, you hear that and it's like, holy, the things that are thrown your way, or just the things that can add up. And I say it all the time, thank God I've got training and coaching, and it's like, hey, that's a circumstance. Here's what happened. Here's what we have to deal with. I mean, people would laugh if we did a running daily list even of the challenges that come up from even what's been your latest, the fire inspection, CJ, right? I mean, things that, you've got the wrong sign in the wrong place, or it has to be lit up. It can't be a sign like that. Your exit signs and things like that. So it's just been a lot of little things, but I guess that's what we took on with this challenge. And so it's been good for us. It has stretched us in new ways. And people will often say, like, well, you guys have ranched though, you've been in agriculture, you've done this hard work for generations, like, what makes this so different? And I don't even know if I can explain it. It's just that much more. It's that different. And you add employees, you add customers, you add all those dynamics, and it makes it a different ballgame.
Yeah, to add to that, I would say my personal growth and bigger picture business has had to grow a lot and understand and comprehend it more. And it's the next level. And I would probably give Calli and Luke a lot of respect. Especially Luke, he's had some big businesses, and he's just kind of like, well, we'll figure that out. And I'm like, whoa, but this isn't, the freezer compressor went down. It's going to cost $18,000. And he's like, well, and I know we would you figure it out and you budget that and whatever, but it's like, okay, yep. So I'm just like, at the one day, oh shoot. And he's like, no, that's gonna happen. Stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I know stuff breaks down all the time, but this one's like, you're just starting a business. That was probably the biggest thing. It's like kind of kicking one of the legs out from underneath you, hoping you can hold it up. And it's like, So long haul, big picture is what Calli and Luke are more like. I'm like, okay, yep. And I'm kind of always like, we got to fix this. We got to do that, And so we all kind of make a good team.
We've joked about that because at home on the ranch, and CJ's said that before, like that's the hard part of this business is he always fixes, which is why my mom and dad love him too, right? Any mechanic, anything, or let's build it, let's create it, let's design it, let's fix it, CJ can do it. And that's not always the case in this business. You can't just fix it or change it, and sometimes it takes a while, and you kind of feel like your hands are tied. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention like our faith, how much that has grown, in all honesty, because you feel like you're backed in a corner some days, and it's like, I can't do anything about this. Like, I don't know how to solve this problem. But I guess that's when we rely on our faith, and that happened one weekend. I remember it was Sunday night, and CJ, again, we try not to talk business right before bed, but it's like, okay, we were talking about employees and stuff, right? And we're like, we need somebody really bad because we just lost somebody. And I said, I'll make a post, right? On Monday, I'll run the social media and I'll see if we can get somebody in the door. And before I even made a post, CJ had texted me and he said, hey, a guy just walked in the door and he's got meat cutting experience. I'm going to give him a try this week. And it's like, I guess that's kind of when you sit back and look, and it's like, who did that? Because that wasn't me, and I think that's really helped us in our business.
I'm going to go back to, you talked about the previous owners were mostly doing exports. Are you still involved in that, or did you cut that off and decide to entirely keep it local?
So when we originally kind of bought it, the owners said they would help us with exports if that came along. Now, I don't know the number, but exports are probably the lowest in 24 than they had been in a long time. Just the shift in cost of beef and stuff. Our imports are way up into America, but we still have all of our export certifications. We actually get audited to verify everything here this month, next week. We didn't want to build the business on something that can come and go and be really good, hot for a while, and then drop off. So we wanted something more local. But it's a branch or a tier that we will keep open. And if you can fill it with a labor force, we would do 10 head a week to fill a container a month, actually working with a guy in Montana. Right now, we're going to send a sample over. Nobody's crossing their fingers. They're like make or break or deal. The guy wants a sample. He's working on contract. So we'll see what the evolution is on it. We'll focus on our local processing and our local meat sales and our custom halves and quarters. And it sounds like an opportunity on a smaller scale. Those other guys were moving a bunch of cattle, and then it dropped off, and that's where they realized we need something more local and consistent to fill the backspace. So still, word evolution, I use that a lot. So it's still evolving and see. It's not what we're going to chase, but we will pursue it if it's there. And then we learn about it, we actually had yesterday, the mobile meat grading system from the USDA was in our facility to get us set up for that. And so they actually did a couple carcasses because the sample we're sending, they want a prime beef. So we found some high choices and then one prime beef. And so hopefully next week we're cutting that one up and getting it labeled for export, one sample, and get that sent over.
All right. Well, I appreciate both of you taking time out of your day to visit with me and my audience and talk about your experience. And I think it's very admirable how you two look at opportunities and take things on and are willing to not settle for the situation. And just like you said, CJ, when you first made that decision to even build pens, just find ways to make a better situation for yourself. So if anyone interested wants to connect with Calli or CJ, I guess I have Calli's social media and information, and I can share that with you, and I'll put her social media down in the show notes and any website links as well. But with that, happy ranching, folks.